Hello. Well, I'm back again, trying out my camera on my computer, trying to get this all sorted out. Well, deer season is in, so it's gonna be it is November right now. It's November the 4th of 2025. So I got me some stuff I'm gonna go get me a big old buck with. I bought me some apple crush. I bought some of that for a mineral lick. I know where the big bucks have been hanging out because I found a series of paw places, in a rub line where they were rubbing earlier in the season. I got a series of paw places where they've been checking their paw places. So I got some apple crushed, and I got the powder stuff too. And it's not like the mineral lick. What it is just a powdered apple crush you pour out on the ground and they eat it, But this right here is the liquid, and it's like a mineral lick. You can pour it over a stump or clear out a place on the ground to pour it on. So I think if I use these two products here, I can get the does to hang around long enough for that big buck to come in chasing those does. I also bought me some doe estrus. I got some standing estrus from Code Blue, from one deer to one bottle. So I hope that should work pretty well right there as well. So eventually, the rut will be in full swing, about mid-November. So hopefully around mid-November, I'll be able to get out there in the woods and get up in my deer stand and get me a big buck, And I know where they've been used. I know where they've been hanging out. I've seen the does. Let's see. I've got my deer tags here ready to go. Let's see. The state of South Carolina, I got 2 antlerless deer tags and I got 3 antlered deer tags. So I got my deer tags, and I got my hunting license. I got everything I need, to get up in the stand and get me a big old buck this season. I might have to take me a doe just for some meat in the freezer, but hopefully I'll get me a wall hanger. I ain't got one yet, I've killed big bucks in my life, but I haven't got one to put on the wall yet, Hopefully I'll be able to get me one eventually. So I got my apple crush, I got my doe estrus, Hopefully I'll be able to get up in the stand, mid-November and get that big buck. I seen him about a week and a half ago. Seen a nice one, he probably had a 22 inch spread, a nice 10, But he ain't the only one that I saw, because I saw a pretty good size 8, but he wasn't big enough, really, I seen an 8 point, but he was probably had like a 15, maybe a 16 inch spread, more like a little basket rack. But the 10 I saw, he was pretty wide. He was about 20, 21, 22 inches wide, and he was actually tall too. He had a real thick mainframe on him. Pretty nice buck, But he was out there a ways, But I know the trail they've been using. I found a series of paw places, and I got this apple crush stuff to make the does hang around, and I got that doe estrus, and that'll help lure him in, Plus with a grunt tube or something, I'll be able to get me a big buck. I'm not wearing hunting clothes all the time, I like camouflage, so I wear all kinds of different camouflage, but, I got the right kind of camo to get up in a tree, so. But, maybe I'll get me a big one this season, one to hang on the wall. I know how to cape out a deer, and I know how to quarter up a deer and debone a deer, I've been hunting the woods here in my hometown for 41 years. My relatives have a hunting lease. They've had that hunting lease for 41 years now, and I know the deer use the same trails. They always have. They've used the same trails for the past 41 years, and I know what trails the big bucks use. They don't like getting out in the open very long. If they cross a clearing, they're not going to stay out in that clearing very long. I know what trails they use, and I know, and usually the paw places are generally in the same area. So, I know where their travel corridors are. I know where the feeding areas are and the bedding areas. So, I think I'll be able to get me a big one this season, hopefully around mid-November, Well, like I said, the rut's going to be in full swing, and I'm going to be ready to go. Well, y'all have a good one.